guys, I'm here to recap Days of Our Lives for the week of August 25th through the 29th. One thing I like about how Days is going about their weeks now is that they're starting storylines at the beginning of the week that are progressing throughout the week, and then by the end they just explode. Big thing that happened at the beginning of this week was the article went viral. That's right, Will's article about EJ and Sammy and Abigail and their whole business affair was published in True Vista magazine this week. Now everybody seems to be upset about this. Abigail, Jennifer, Adrian, Ben, JJ, all of the board members are calling Sammy very upset, and everybody seems to be coming over to the Wilson apartment to express their anger over it. Abigail goes over there and absolutely attacks Will. She just doesn't let him get a word in. He just lets her go. Because she's mad, and she has sort of a right to be. So once Abigail finds out that it wasn't actually Will who put her name in the article, it was Sammy, she goes over there and she says, "I will call Mr. Shin and I will tell him that everything that happened is true and that you were very vindictive in your takeover and you're not to be trusted." And so Sammy kind of believes this, which I really didn't buy because, I mean, how does Abigail get in touch with this really powerful businessman from Japan or China? I'm sorry, I forget where he's from. But nevertheless, the deal has been struck. So Abigail will not contact this man, and Sammy will not come after her or her family anymore. Sammy kind of settles things with Abigail for now, and she's also working her way to settling things with EJ, because EJ has been calling businessmen, helping her with damage control, and in return, he stated earlier this week that he wants a second chance with her. He had this really nice line where she assumed that all he wanted was her to be back in his bed, and he said, "I don't want to be back in your bed unless I'm back in your heart." So they agree to have lunch the following day, which goes actually very well. They're at the Brady Pub in public, and they're talking about their kids. They're actually talking about architecture, talking about how wonderful each other is. Roman comes by, but of course Sammy deflects that before it can get weird. There's hope for EJami, until of course Sammy gets a phone call stating, ba-ba-bum, Stefano is coming back to Salem! Woo, woo, woo! Tamara's back in the house! Yes, he has not shown up this week because apparently Stefano has been bribing people and paying people off in order to get the tax evasion charges dismissed so that he may return to Salem without being arrested. But don't worry guys, Rafe is on it. Another thing that this article is causing is disruptions in the Wilson relationship. Yes, Lucas comes back to town just in time to hear about the article and then do some digging. He uncovers that Victor is the one who owns the company and then blows this secret to Will. Sonny was actually going to tell him, but of course his father beat him to it. And so Will gets so angry that he storms out, and he's been giving Sonny the silent treatment for a while, and by the end of this week, they have a conversation about it. Because Sonny's like, "I need to talk about it, we need to work this out, please let us work this out." Will is really upset because he thinks that his entire life has been a gigantic screw-up. I mean, when you look at his history, let's see, shooting EJ, letting his dad go to prison, the whole Gabby thing, Nick nonsense. A lot of things have not been going well for Will across two actors. So he gets really upset when he finds out that the one thing that he is proud of, that he's holding on to, getting this article job and doing it right, is actually something that Sonny made happen. So let's hope that Wilson can talk again and work things out next week. So Sonny at the beginning blames Victor for everything, because the article was Victor's idea, and he could have taken Will off the assignment as Sonny had requested, but of course he didn't. So Sonny decides to take responsibility for his husband and for all the crap that's gone down. Victor also, at the end of the week, takes responsibility when he tells Maggie. Yes, Victor and Maggie were back on this week. It was very sweet, and Maggie was going to do her classic yelling at Victor, "Oh, shame, shame, shame," but then of course when he and Sonny both took responsibility, she switched her tune and said, "Oh, you are sorry, didn't intend to hurt anybody, and I love you for that." So some nice Victor and Maggie scenes this week. After Abigail made her little deal with Sammy, she decides to hang out with Ben because that's how she feels better about this whole mess. So Ben has to go down to storage in the basement where a bunch of supplies are for the club, and he brings Abigail with him, and of course the door locks behind them when she takes a box out of the door, and boom! You guys are in a sticky little romantic situation. Now, things get pretty heated in the middle of the week. They make a little picnic as Abigail makes some canned food for them. They got wine and glasses and candles. And then, of course, things start to get hot and heavy. Fortunately, Abigail had a little flashback about the last time she was making out in a storage room, which was, of course, at the hospital with EJ. And she became very uncomfortable and left very hastily once T opened the door. Now, later, she sees EJ and kind of gets weird, and then I guess Ben figures out that the reason that they had to stop is because of EJ, so that's going to cause some trouble. Another couple that got hot and heavy this week was JJ and Paige. They are actually another storage area. They were in a moving truck, and Teresa, of course, walks in on them and proceeds to tell Eve about it. Before that, though, Teresa gives Paige some very good advice, or not so very good advice, depending on how you look at it. She says that men only want one thing, and as soon as you give it to them, they will be gone in a Salem second. So Paige, I like how they're handling Paige's character because she's seeing right through everybody's BS. Also, Eve and JJ have a little jam session this week. He plays the guitar and she sings. Of course, she gets a little caught because of her nodules on her vocal cords, and she actually tugs on everybody's heartstrings in this episode because she starts talking about how music was the only thing that was really always there for her, and I think it's kind of getting to JJ as well, as she's saying that she wants the money for her surgery so that she can return to singing and that she can pay for her daughter to make her life better and all that nonsense. So I guess they're trying to make Eve seem like a likable character, which is one thing that Days does very well. Some examples are Vivian and Nicole and, Kristen. So they're trying to do that with Eve, and they're starting with this whole music thing. So speaking of Kristen, she was only on a couple of days this week, but at the beginning of the week she had the big confrontation with Brady, where he's in the park, shirtless, no less, and she comes in with her ankle monitor saying, "Hey, Brady, I missed you." And basically that scene was for Brady to really open up and to say things to Kristen, not to tell her off, but to let her know what he's been feeling, where his head's at, which basically goes along the lines of that he's been on a destructive path, ripping himself apart, trying to forget, trying to get away from all the bad emotions, blaming his father for everything. He blamed his father because of what happened with him and Kristen, and that's kind of Brady's justification on how it's okay to blame John. But now that he's in the hospital, and now that Kristen's back, Brady's kind of like awakened to everything that has gone wrong. And I think it was a very good episode for his character. Nicole and Eric are both trying to help Brady, and in the process they are just button heads. They have got so much sexual tension, and he's just saying, "Nicole, I don't want you here, get away." And she's like, "Well, there is more to this and you know it." So there may be some good Eric Cole stuff coming. Another couple that got the spotlight this week was Hope and Aiden. I was so happy about this because we're finally getting some insight into Aiden's character and his backstory. There was some tension at the Salem PD when he requested to see a client, and she said she couldn't, and they were just kind of, belligerent at each other, just making things difficult. Then she, of course, goes for a run to blow off some steam and pulls something in her calf, I believe. And, of course, Aiden is walking by, and he decides to help her get the knot out by massaging her leg very sensually on the park bench. By the end of the week, he had admitted his feelings. So he said, "I just want to acknowledge the elephant in the room. You know how I feel about you, but I can't because you're a married woman. Thank God for that, because I really shouldn't be feeling like this." And Hope says, "Yes, I do love my husband, and I know that you're grieving because of your wife." And finally, we learned something about Aiden's wife. We learned that Aiden and his wife weren't always the perfect couple, which we kind of guessed. According to Aiden, he and his wife fought a lot. That's why he's not really comfortable after her death, because he's guilty about how they left things. Because they, stayed married for Chase's sake, which is a really terrible idea, but they did it anyway, and things just got bad by the end. And when she died, there was all these unresolved issues and all these things that he never got to say, and he realized that, wow, I was a bad husband. And so he's very, very hesitant about getting into a new one. We know that they're not going to get together very fast because of all these obstacles in their way. According to Daniel Cosgrove, by Christmas, they're still not there yet. So for now, we're just going to have to take things one step at a time. Clyde and Kate are playing it very cool when he comes up to talk to Rafe at the beginning of the week. They kind of play introductions. We know Clyde has been spying on Ben and Abigail and Jordan and Rafe. He's trying to figure out where Kate fits into everything. He gets the business contacts from Kate as requested, and he calls her quite a woman. And he also plays it like that when he talks to Jordan, and he says that Rafe introduced him to Kate, and that she's very lovely and smart and cool and friendly and down to earth, and she's wonderful. He recognizes that gets Jordan upset. So Clyde is the guy in the backgrounds, behind the bushes, who is putting all the pieces together without actually having to give himself away. And lastly, Julie Williams has returned to Salem after a lovely yoga cruise. I liked the conversation that she had with EJ, because he's freaking out about Sammy, and now his father's coming back into town. And so Julie comes up to him after being shown the article. Now, of course, this is Julie we're all talking about, and everybody expected her to blow up and blame people and stick her nose in everybody's business. After the whole drama with Nick, she actually comes in and gives some very good advice and says, you know what? That's life. These things just kind of happen, and you just have to pick yourself up and try not to stumble again. That this is life, and this does happen, and these are the days of our lives. And we will have to see how those days continue next week. Bye.